Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session on researching health inequities. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Sundari ma'am. She's a professor at Achyuta Menon Center for Health Science Studies in Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology in Trivandrum. She will be presenting the keynote address, followed by 3 presentations. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Actually,
two presentations. We don't have. Thank you for that.
I guess I shouldn't disappear totally behind this, so I will try to come forward. And yet again, actually, I'm here talking to you about researching health inequities, and I hope to go through this quickly. This is going to be followed by 2 very interesting presentations with very different approaches to doing health equity research. That is going to be a good takeaway for us. So let me, without much ado, get into researching health inequities and present to you a few thoughts. So I'm talking about why are we so obsessed with, or why research health inequities? What is the current state of research in health inequities? Some reflection. Some of this has been presented in an earlier session by my colleagues, but I'm just drawing out the key conclusions from there and some thoughts on how to move forward and what it entails. And why research health inequities? I mean, this is a quote that many of my students know very well. This is by Nancy Krieger, who says, if you don't ask, you don't know, and if you don't know, you can't act. So it's crucial for being able to make any change. First of all, to be able to ask the right questions, which will make you then visualize or highlight a problem, and then you get into being able to come up with why that problem exists. And then you move on to how do we make a change. And if we don't even begin to ask the question, nothing will happen. There is an urgent need to problematize the routinely described differences in health status across social groups, as well as the complete absence of information about other social groups. So this we've been highlighting from yesterday, that there are various socially disadvantaged groups about whom we know almost nothing. We haven't even begun to take a look at how various disadvantages accumulate, and the routinization of also, lowest quintile will have higher mortality, will have lower. So to go beyond that and to problematize how can we have it and why should we continue to have it after so many decades of specifically designed policies and programs. And the resounding silence about health inequities in India's health policies and programs, where, the focus is on poor. And even when an objective says inequities, when you go into the tasks and activities, they're talking about marginalized groups and not about the social gradient. What is the current state of research on health inequities? We've repeated this ad nauseum. It is mainly quantitative, is not the issue. But what happens is that there has to be caution that we don't make marginalized state or, being a migrant, we don't kind of essentialize it, that it is the problem of being a migrant. It is the problem of marginalization of the migrant that is giving rise to the health inequities. But when we don't say more about the marginalization, nobody says more on it, and you keep only presenting data decade after decade about the gaps, somehow it becomes like, okay, so what's new? That we know. Is there anything else? So it actually could become a blame the victim research, which will locate the factors within the individual and not go beyond why these things are happening. And then suddenly, I mean, with that kind of descriptive research, when we jump to policy, so what is the policy message from this? What happens is it becomes a deficit-oriented kind of research. These people, there is a big gap. How do we bring them up to others' level? Again, it's, something's wrong with them. We have to pull them up. They have to come up to speed kind of thing. Then, reliance on large-scale data sets. Now, all of us do research with large-scale data sets. This is not to blame anybody. But we have to start thinking about how does that limit certain understanding. So there is no class analysis. We keep calling it class, but it's income, and sometimes it's not even income, it is expenditure class that we are looking at. And in fact, the lowest quintile in terms of expenditure class may not even be the poorest. It is the lowest expenditure group. So class has not begun to be analyzed in terms of how it mitigates health inequities. Class as defined as, ownership of the means of production as it is classically understood, and so on. So what it does is that it does limit us, and we should at least understand that these limitations exist. What happens then with the kind of research is that it fails to guide action for changing the status quo and may convey a sense of inevitability. So again, no explicit philosophical approach and interpretations influenced by one's own implicit biases. In a previous session, Dr. Sundararaman had said that, you observe all these differences, or you observe all these issues, and then you make policy recommendations. Those recommendations actually don't come from the evidence. They come from your understanding of what is the solution to that evidence. And since you have not made explicit your worldview, you assume that you've made a correct statement, but it could be, it is based on your own biases, and the theoretical premise is implicit, not explicit. So there are multi-level factors, and these are acknowledged in a lot of research. There are all these larger forces that are acting. And I say you acknowledge, and then you put it aside, and then you go on with business as usual, because the downstream factors, the individual, household, and community factors are much more easier and amenable to studying. Especially in terms of intervention research, most of your policy evidence then becomes informed by this kind of evidence-based research that is focused only on downstream factors. I mean, not that it's not useful, but downstream factors alone being focused without then locating it in which context, location, time, space, it worked, and what are those. It may not work in other settings, that kind of reflection not being present. And then you also then don't talk about how to change those structural forces and how those larger forces can be operationalized. So methodological innovations are also not taking off because we do what we are comfortable doing. So, and then that which does not lend itself to measurement, like power dynamics or alienation, not that it doesn't lend itself. If you borrow from other disciplines and really make an effort, we may learn how to do it, but we haven't gone there. So why questions have not been addressed? We have a very limited understanding of the pathways. So what I would like to critique about focus on downstream research is that somehow then we seem to communicate that you don't have to break those eggs to make those omelets. This is borrowing from Abhay Shukla actually. That you can leave all those larger forces as they are. You can continue to make economic policy and make action that continues to accentuate inequities on the one hand, and then by tinkering with a few things at the lower level, you can change. And you may change a few things for a short time, and something else may then come up as a problem. and intersections of multiple axes of disadvantages, which Aditi will be talking about. Intersectionality has been ignored for the most part. So where to from here? First of all, I think the recognition that health inequities is not about looking at gaps only. It is about going beyond that and understanding. Also, that those gaps are not unidimensional, but so the concept of health inequities, it occupies a multidimensional, space, and it is, time specific, context specific, has many levels of factors, and so on. So it does not lend itself to very simplistic approaches. I just want to remind you about Michael Marmot's, the CSDH kind of thing, which says we need to tackle the maldistribution of power, money, and resources. Now, if we really have to develop solutions for how to tackle this, I think we have to get really sophisticated in our research, adopt intersectionality. The other is view from bottom up. View from bottom up also because we need to understand how all these larger forces are playing out in individuals' lives. So what does it mean when there is a huge inflation in the country? In everyday terms, what does it mean to this woman or this man or this child? So what are they? Only then we will even get indicators that we can, use sensibly. We have to start having the imagination of what are those alternative future scenarios in which greater health inequity could be achieved. So what is our imagination about that? Where do we want to go? Approaches that begin to unpack the social forces driving inequities, methodological innovations drawing on multiple disciplines, and the most important of all is doing mindful research, being purposeful in the research we do. Take note of the fact that we as researchers are social actors. We can while away and produce and churn out meaningless papers that don't make any difference. We can be very successful doing that. Or we can be obscure but produce very meaningful research and that have the satisfaction of having made some difference to the unacceptable state of inequities. So with that, I'd like to move on.